My name is Stuart Payton, and I'm from the Natural History Consortium. I'm hosting this session for Alison Crowther, who's joining us this morning. Alison, are you there? Is your camera on? Just checking.
Yes, I was just having a problem with my speakers.
No worries. So Alison here has worked for 25 years in conflict resolution and public engagement in the environment sector. And for the past 8 years on the odyssey of adopting her now 5-year-old boy, she has become interested in the intersection between trauma, personal identity and resilience, and the resilience we need in our systems to resolve issues around climate change and biodiversity loss. So I'm going to hand across now to Alison.
Thanks, Stuart. Okay, so what the session is about, it actually follows on really beautifully from the one that Martin Parker was doing. And now I can't hear myself talking it back to myself, which is absolutely fantastic. So it should feel a lot more normal. And they were talking a lot about what is it that we can do to really get into people's minds and help them to change and get environmentally aware and actually know what that means and how to do that. So I used to work 25 years in environmental conflict resolution and then adopted a little boy and became very up close with trauma and what that looks like, and also all of the trauma teaching that we have to do when we adopt a child. And I realized how very, very similar, how I wish all environmentalists could be just inoculated with the stuff and just get it injected, you know, and just know it, because our messages would be so much better and we would do it in a slightly different way. So that's what I've been working on for the last 8 years, is that intersection between environmentalism, you know, and the terrible things that we know and how much we hurt, I have to say. Knowing that stuff for 25 years is really, really hard. And people that come into it new must be really shocked about it and feel a sense of trauma. So what I'm going to do is lead you through some of the stuff that I've learned. So here we go. I hope that, oh no, end of slideshow, that doesn't work.
So we can currently see in the back just the PowerPoint, as if you were editing the PowerPoint.
That's strange. Okay. Right. I think I might need to close that. I'm so sorry about this.
No worries at all. Would you like me to read out some of the people in the room? Would that be?
Oh yes, please. Yeah, so you do that. You do that while I get to the beginning of this, and I don't know quite how to change it.
Well, we've got 111 people, which is amazing.
Wow. That really is.
A real mixture of kind of people who are working for wildlife trusts, the universities, national trusts. And the reasons are, you know, lots of people saying that at the moment they're having to have quite difficult conversations. That they chose this session to come to over the other two is that it's 2020 is throwing up a lot of these difficult conversations.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, this is an interesting one from B comments here, that how to communicate environmental problems without causing despair as well. That
yeah. Okay, I don't know how to, it's not showing what you're seeing for me. So is it all right if I just keep going in this way?
By all means, keep going.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing.
Totally.
Okay,
yeah.
So first of all, I wanted to talk about a little bit about trauma, what it is. So what I'd like you to do first of all is, as I go through these, if you could in chat put an example of what do you think a one-off personal trauma might look like. And Stuart, I'm going to need you to be looking at that if that's okay. Give me an example of something that you might think is a one-off personal trauma, something that happens to a person and may affect them for some time ongoing. Okay, Stuart, what have we got?
We got bereavement, breakup, a severe illness, divorce, loss of job, death of a friend or relative, losing a job again, accident, redundancy. I'm sure a lot of, you know, that's a very current
Absolutely.
one. Traffic accident.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah.
Traffic accident, exactly. I'm going to use that one a little bit later. A personal ongoing trauma. Could you put in chat something about what that might look like?
there's a lot of bereavement seems to have come up quite a few times. Grief, depression, mental illness has come up a few times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that the difference between a personal one-off trauma, in fact, is something that the one-off is something that we feel that we can talk about in public. We can talk to other people about it. They kind of know about it, and you get more support around that. It's okay. Personal ongoing traumas tend to be, yes, things like that, you know, they're slightly hidden, or we feel once this thing has happened, we can't just keep going on about it to our friends all the time. You know, I was in that position with, you know, IVF, for example, that kind of thing where you feel you kind of need to hide it for some reason, or society lets us think that. That's personal ongoing trauma. Collective trauma, the next one, Stuart.
Ooh, collective trauma.
Collective trauma.
COVID-19 straight in there.
Oh,
with
yes.
Somali.
Oh, yes. Of course.
Pandemics is very much going up. Climate change, war, the big things.
Yeah.
By the sound of it, natural disasters.
Absolutely. That's right. Where a whole section of society, or in fact, maybe the whole planet. This is the first one I think that I know about where it's the whole planet, because even in world wars, they haven't been world wars. This is possibly the biggest one that's come up. Plagues of all kinds, actually. The difference with this one is that we are talking to other nations and people are seeming to be doing the same sorts of things, or even different sorts of things. Intergenerational trauma. Now, is this something that you've heard about? What might that be? What might it look like?
Wonder if they'll be similar. Intergenerational slavery comes up, poverty, dementia, colonialism.
Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. You are such a good group. Right, you've come up with the top ones each time, the first time. Brilliant. That's absolutely right. So we can still, it's something where you can still feel the echoes of it. It has resonance, sometimes hundreds of years later. Slavery is exactly that example. And what about systemic trauma? What might that be? I'm so sad that I can't see you chatting down the side of the screen, but I can't, so I've got to rely on Stu. What's coming up for that one? That's slightly different.
It's some similar ones. We're still getting racism is one of them.
It is actually as well.
Sorry,
yeah,
we're getting
very
some
much
satire in here with different politicians as well. Environmental racism, gender equality, bullying, coercive control, overpopulation.
Yeah. So those are big systems, and there are smaller systems as well. For example, the system of your business may be one, your organization. I noticed my, sorry, I'm not even looking at the screen, am I? I know I'm supposed to look at you. My postman, you know, for a while back there, he was coming and he was slightly bowed like this. You know, and I said, Matt, are you all right? What's going on? He said, you know, yeah, I'm all right. But and I said, is it this stuff to do with the post office? Yes, and of course it was. And the whole lot of them, you know, felt just slightly tight, slightly bowed, slightly anxious. And that's a kind of systemic trauma. So where a system is in trauma. Okay, next thing. Now I'm just going to check with my things what we're supposed to be doing. What I wanted to talk about, I said I was going to come back to the crash example. And what I'm going to do is explain what happens in the brain when we have trauma. So there are three parts of, obviously there are many parts of the brain. This is vastly simplified. So I do apologize to anybody who knows much more about this stuff than I do. The reptilian brain is the bit at the back. It's instinctual. It's the bit that, well, reptiles have got it. Flight, and can you see that? So that's the red bit on the brain. Then we've got the limbic brain, the bit in the middle, which is to do with emotion. And then what humans are particularly good at is this neocortex bit, this bit at the front, this very large forehead that we have that has all of this grey matter, which we can think of as being a kind of filing system. So now, it's not the only filing system, however. So the problem is that trauma is when one of your files has got filed very strongly in the wrong place. So for example, the car crash incident, you have you're in a car going along fine, you've got a loved one in the back with you, you're looking lovingly in their face, and then a truck comes along and hits the side of the car, and your body goes into trauma. Sadly, what it remembers, because there's a lovely phrase, what fires together wires together. Something deep inside of an anxiety has fired alongside looking at being comfortable and having a nice experience, and looking at your partner or your loved one, and that has suddenly become filed in the red bit just here.
Alison, sorry, we're just the slides currently aren't coming up. Are they?
Oh,
just to check.
Right.
Getting a few questions about that.
Have you got? Can you not see a brain? You should be able to see a brain.
You can't see a brain. No.
Okay, I'm going to have to come out of this properly, aren't I? I'm going to have to stop this slideshow, I think, if I can find where to do that. Is that? Can you see the brain now?
The brain.
Stuart,
no, not currently.
No. Okay. Right.
I mean, if it's something which you're happy to describe instead, potentially, is it? Or I can just quickly see if I can get the slides up for you.
Have you got my slides? I don't think you have you?
I do.
I've got a problem at the moment. My cursor is stuck on my other screen. Oh no, it's not. It's all right. I've got it here.
Well, Roz Johnson says you were great without them, and in fact, there's so much going on here. So,
I'm so sorry. You should be seeing some lovely stuff.
I think without, to be honest, and everyone seems very happy with it. So
okay, that's fine. Well, so I can see some lovely slides of the brain. Now, what? So this is really, this stuff is interesting. What wires together fires together. So what that means is that when we are having difficult conversations, it would be a really great idea to be in a calm place, because if you're going to give some data which is hard, then being in a place which is not so hard would be great. So things that, if they're going to go into our brains, it would be great to be in a more joyful place. It sounds really weird, but it really, really works. We take things in better when we're happy. But the stuff about filing wrong is that the piece of data that has told you about when to be anxious, it's really, really good at looking after us, this reptilian brain. So that little bit of filing has gone into the wrong place. It's gone into the red brain, it's gone into this bit. I've got a brain, I'll show you. It's gone into this bit and not that bit. And the problem with the red bit, this bit at the back, when we're talking with children, we call this the red brain and this the blue brain. The problem with it going into the red brain is that the red brain also creates not only a file, but a big red button. And that big red button, we're a bit button happy in the reptile brain back here. We really like it. And the reptile brain will turn it on at the first sense of, hang on a minute, that's what happened just before that bad thing happened. So we're going to go into flight or fright preemptively. And that is what trauma is, basically. Yeah, I'm good. If you can't see these, I may as well have them shut. Oh no, I need them. I'm so sorry. Now, what we will do is go to a flinger. So I can't see anything that you can see, and it's all a bit of a mess now. So could you? Oh, I can see you. There you are. Can you put the flinger address in the chat?
Doing that now.
And while people are doing that, actually, I'm going to see if I can sort my screen out.
Okay,
So what I'd really love you to do is to, in your world, think about when you get that awful feeling of a difficult conversation, and often it's in your tummy and it's a bit of a shock, and you can see something playing out ahead of you, and you just think, oh no, I don't know what to do. This is going to be difficult, and your own brain is saying, this is going to be difficult. What does a difficult conversation look like for you? What do you see in the room? It might be one other person, it might be a whole group of people, it may be a group of volunteers, a group of employees. What do you see? So on Flinger, if you press that Flinger link, you will be taken to a screen. It's a whiteboard. I'm a facilitator, of course it's a whiteboard. And you'll be able to, on the top right hand, there's something that says, it says send. and if you've got quite a small screen, or if it's made smaller, it'll just say send and it won't have a box next to it. If you press send, then you can write in the box what you want to say. It says message. What it means is post it, and also choose the color of the post it. So at the first, what I want you to do is look at the left hand side and answer that question, which is, I haven't got Flinger open. Here it is, Flinger. What does a difficult situation look like, or what does difficult look like in the room? And it could be on Zoom or on the phone. Great. Now, can you do that? So if you press send, open the box.
Alison,
choose the color.
I'm just screen sharing this at the moment so that people can see if they're not in Flinger at the moment, how it works, just to let you know.
Okay. But you should be able to get through. So you've pressed the link, it opens Flinger, and I can see things arriving. That's absolutely perfect. Try and get the red ones on the red side for the slightly dangerous situation. Lovely. Perfect. So we can get interactivity. Yes. And the wonderful thing about this is that we can keep it afterwards, and if we had longer, we would make it into lots of different places, group things, and so on. Okay. So I can see, you can make it bigger and smaller if you want to see the post-its as well that other people are writing. Okay, so tensing up, worried people, tense shoulders, scary. Emotion, no emotion and no interaction, absolutely. People don't listen. People can't breathe. Okay. Now, aggression, raised voices, absolutely. People are overwhelmed. Okay. Now, what I'd like you to do at the same time, if you put some of those on, have a look at those and then think, how do I feel? And how you feel, I'd like you to put in chat if you can. And Stuart's going to tell me about that. So this is what you see in the room on the left-hand side. But how do you feel? What does your body feel? Or maybe what questions have you got in your mind as well? So when you see all these things, and that probably is making, just even looking at these, is probably making your body feel that almost
discomfort, trapped, tense, anxious, lots of anxious, tight, sick, defensive and tense, increased heart rate.
Right. Increased heart rate, exactly. So increased heart rate.
Fear, nausea, tense stomach, sick, awkward, angry.
Yes.
Sick, deflated, unenthused. Shall I keep reading this? Is this helpful? Yeah.
And that's perfect. So they're kind of similar, aren't they? They mirror.
Yeah.
They mirror, and there is a very good reason for that. I don't know if you've heard about Stephen Porges's work, which is that we have what's called the vagus nerve running right through our bodies, and we're finding, researchers are finding that it's actually more interesting than we thought before. Not only is it this huge nerve that seems to manage an awful lot of stuff, but it also, you may have heard the term mirror neurons, I think that's slightly out of date now. It's called the polyvagal nerve because it does an awful lot more things. It does 3 things at once. And one of the things that it does is it enables us to calm other people down by being. And the being part of that is empathy. So where these feelings come up, what dissolves them, I mean, even in a very, very traumatized child having a really big time, the thing that breaks through, what we call, and that is often to do with shame. And sometimes what you're seeing in that room may be to do with the shame, which is a very, very interesting area and a very heavy thing. What happens is that when you are demonstrating empathy, then all of those feelings that you've just said, they will come down. And it is some sort of amazing, it's an amazing thing that humans have got. I don't know about other primates. I suspect so, having lived with orangutans. I suspect so. They're also quite manipulative and do lots of burglary. My stuff. Yeah, sorry, I didn't even tell you that, did I?
That wasn't in the introduction.
I know, I forget stuff like that. Like I used to live in the Amazon and in Indonesia and things like that. The reason I did that was because I wasn't sure about our systems. And I thought, I'm not sure these systems are working. I just want to go and have a look around the world. So I spent 2 years doing that, and then another 3 years. And so I've sort of lived in spaces which are not typically white and middle class at all, and with tribes, and I see how they do things. And so sometimes I feel myself living here and going, wow, we are weird. We are so strange. I'm slightly worried with all of our technical stuff that we're getting a little bit behind. So I just want to make sure, time check, that we're getting on. Okay, so what's important to remember is what fires together wires together. And the filing gets put in the reptilian brain if we've had a bad experience. And so this might be what you're looking at. Another really lovely way to think about where we are at the moment in a pandemic is normally, so if this is the sea, and your boat is on top of the sea here, again, a lovely graphic, but you can't have it, and you will get them later. Here's your boat, and normally when we've got a load of resilience, so we've got lots of people around, lots of hugging, lots of connection is the biggest indicator of well-being. If you've got really good connection, the idea of it's really hard for you to go down like that. There's other things, obviously exercise, nature, and so on, but connection is way up here. When we haven't got good resilience and we're down here, all the rocks and the points and the tufa structures, whatever it is in our past, and things that we are worried about, they start sticking up, and our boat sort of hits them. And we notice them a lot more. So when we're less resilient, we have more of those things. So trying to build resilience will make all of that work. We'll be able to get where we're going, because the water level won't be low. Effectively, so that's resilience as a water level. Now, so what I'd love to do, I realise that I haven't got my own PowerPoint open either. Make sure that I'm doing. So I have a PowerPoint based on what you've said, which is probably withdrawn and hopeless, seemingly irrationally angry, fixed on ideas, quick changes of behavior, and self-sabotaging. These kinds of things you're going to see. So my next thing is, what helps? On the other side of the flinger, could you go into that again? And you might need to put that again in the sidebar, Stu, if you could do that again. And then go through to it again and have a look at the flinger again. And this time on the right-hand side of it, with a different coloured, or it doesn't really matter, a different coloured post-it, put up what you have seen people do. Because sometimes when you notice that somebody's done something amazingly well, and it could have been something that you've heard on one of those lovely podcasts that people have nowadays, from some of these meditation gurus, for example. It could have been something that you've seen in a room, or a teacher has done, or nursery are incredible for knowing how to do this kind of stuff. It could have been XR are really exploring this kind of space as well. It might be something that you've come across there. So what is good? Let me open Flinger and see what's happening.
A lot of them coming in.
Beautiful.
Some green.
This is absolutely right. So walking in nature, if you've got a group, really, are we going to do that? Answer, yes, you are. The more we can take people out in nature, we know that it has a calming effect. It really will work. If you have a difficult conversation to have with an employee, walk around the site. Don't do it every time, otherwise they'll think, oh no, we're going to walk around the site. What does that mean? Care, yes, care, beautiful. Loved ones, of course. And that's what the connection that I was talking about. Compassion. A comforting smile. Oh, this is a great one. Preparation. Absolutely. So I'm going to go onto my next slide now, which you will get afterwards. And you'll see, wow, how did she know that? How did she know she was going to put those things down? So grounding activities are really important. So that's things like breathing, things like sitting back in your chair properly, putting your feet on the ground, having some breaths. 4 breaths in. A count of 4 breaths in and 7 breaths out is a kind of a hack. It gets your body to relax. So that's something that you can do for yourself, and you can also get other people to do. Breaks and food, hugely important. So breath exercises, sorry, I've just said that. So grounding exercises, grounding activities of any kind. So literally being on the ground, being outside. Movement, shaking and stretching can absolutely change what's going on in people's bodies and in their minds. Another one, if you have children who won't sit still, or even people who won't sit still, crunchy things. So crisps, crisp might not be quite crunchy enough. Something really crunchy, that activates the vagus nerve and really helps relax the body, crunching. So for autistic children, that's something that they will do. What we're finding is that stuff we learned about autism is now going very much into stuff that we learnt about adoption and fostering and children who have had a hard life, which I am now putting, absolutely, this is what we need to be doing in our areas as well. And thinking about the past, the present. The past was one place, but people survived, you know, we know they did because we're here. The present, and then thinking about the future, and then coming back to the present, and always coming into the present, going to the future, coming in the past. That's for when you're doing the strategy type work. So I've just got a few slides: food and connection, time and a light touch. So the key concepts of this are pausing. Just if you feel like that, if you're in that situation, it's just happened, you've got that sort of that rising feel, or sometimes it's a thumping to your feet feel of shock and worry. This is the kind of thing that people get on the stage if they've lost all their words, they can't remember what they were going to say, or in Strictly where they can't remember their dance. It's this kind of it kind of thumps down to your feet. Pause. Maybe do that breathing. Another one is look after yourself first. This is what we're taught as adoptive parents. Look after yourself first. If you are not safe and happy and okay with what you're about to do, the other people can't be either. And this is the vagus nerve. This is the polyvagal theory, the fact that we mirror each other's feelings. Working with others. So this is to do with planning as well. Planning and work with others. Research what might come into the room. What might this feel like? If this does happen, what might I do? What do I feel comfortable with? So if you're an engineer and everybody you're working with is an engineer, then it'll be linear. If it's creative, then do something creative. Useful words are what happened, how do you feel? But then make sure that people are talking to you about feelings. Because so often if you ask, how do you feel? What you get back is how somebody thinks. What happened, rather than how are you? But what happened, because what happened could be something that happened in the past. It could be something that's just happened. Remember, what fires together wires together, and also that empathy dissolves shame. It dissolves these difficult situations. There is a lot of shame about our issue, about the environment. There's a lot of shame about biodiversity loss. People know in the core of themselves, they know they haven't been taking care. But also in the core of themselves, they know that they're a kind person. So that can't be right. And so we have this dissociation, and dissociation never feels great. So you will often be talking to people who are not feeling great. Okay, well, I've had a lovely presentation with my beautiful slides, which I will send you. You will get those. And if there are any questions or anything that people are saying,
of course,
Steve, can you let me know?
I mean, the last few questions have been about comments have been about the crisps and how that's dividing the room very much between people who love that idea or hate that idea. But no.
Generally, well, yeah, crisps wasn't a great one, but something crunchy. The idea is the crunch. Yeah. So for my son, it's lettuce. Don't know why. Lettuce, loves lettuce. Hummus and sticks. You know, this. So
the latest
really
question
works.
we've got is from Danielle Clifford, and is how can you go about rewiring the brain so that the association isn't linked to the trauma? Okay, so that is, you're getting into the areas of therapy. But there are many therapies that do that. There's one called EMDR that is to do with eyesight, where you look and you dissociate that message from the old message. And another one is tapping on points of your face, which is incredibly easy, and it puts anxiety down, you know, almost immediately by about 40%. Right. So tapping is another one. It has a name, but tapping, if you put tapping into the internet, you will also find it.
So anything else?
How do you recognise the
like
line of over preparing? That's from Lisa.
Over preparing. Oh, I'm not good at that. I love over preparing. I'd love to know from Lisa what she means by that. Is it in terms of spending too much time doing something, or is it about going too much into sort of trying to repair something that actually isn't our job to repair? I don't know if Lisa's going to come back to you.
Both seem great. As she said, those two.
Okay. Well, time. Well, for me, it's to do with a job. I do a job. I prevent conflict and solve conflict when it's there. So there's a certain amount of time that I've got, and it is also to do with experience, things that I've seen before. I will know what to do with, and instinct and listening. So there's an awful lot of listening, and there's also, I have to say, there is an awful lot of things that come in. They come into your consciousness. They come into you as a facilitator or as somebody who's leading a meeting, and you don't know where they came from. And so that in that case, pause. Look after yourself, work with others. So that this is a little slide that I've got here that I can see. Work with others. And I really do mean that, work with others. So it's not all in your head. Use your team, use your support structure. When we do conflict resolutions on environmental issues, these are things that really matter to people. They are to do with identity. In the environmental world, it does feel like identity. We think of our house, our castle, as the planet. Somehow that's how we're made. I'm made like that very much. I really get that. And so it is a very deep feeling. And the more people that you have in your team to work with you, thinking about that, it will really help you. So working as a team, hugely important.
It's been a really good question, which a lot of people want to see the answer to here, is how to help people overcome shame at not taking action on the environment. Sorry, let me start again. How do we help people overcome shame at not taking action on the environmental issues and help motivate them to be more positive about that?
Right. There's a really key concept, which I haven't put in here, which is called normalization. So what I do, and we have a way of looking at the world when there's trauma in the past, which is called PACE. So we are playful, accepting, curious, and empathetic. And that comes from, I think it's either Dan Siegel or Dan Hughes's work. Playful, this is hugely useful. So playful. So when we do it, like I said before, what wires together, fires together, fires together, wires together. We are playful with this, not blaming, angry, loud, playful. And I think XR kind of gets that right sometimes. We are accepting. So a lot of people in my family up in Barnsley did not learn about environmental stuff at school. It just wasn't there. Anybody over 40 may well have not heard any of this stuff. People who left school early, people who value different things won't have paid any attention to this. It wasn't key, and they can go through life without knowing it. And that acceptance, that acknowledgement, the A for acknowledgement, is really super useful. And listening to that story. Okay, so you've never come into, no, I understand that. Absolutely. Why on earth would you know? And frankly, we haven't been told this by the powers that be either. If you live in a flood zone, you will have been told, the Environment Agency will be on some kind of thing. But even then, we know that the Environment Agency, the alerts, people kind of they don't really know what to do with it. I've done some work on that. Yeah, those kinds of things. Sorry,
sorry, how do we, sorry, I'm trying to find it again. How to overcome the shame of not...
overcome the shame, yeah. Right, so PACE, yeah. Playful, accepting, empathetic. No, empathetic is the last one. Curious, brilliant. So, in fact, I'm just writing a course for social workers at the time. We finish at 11:15, don't we? Yeah. I'm just working on a training course for social workers called Difficult Conversations. It's not just for social workers, it's for, well, actually I wrote it. I went to the university, Bristol University, I'm writing this with, saying, I think adoptive parents need a little bit of help having the difficult conversations with their children, because it's not a great idea to put all this stuff into therapy, because we need to be creating whole systems, you know, in our rooms, in our houses, where everything about that child is accepted and loved, and not with this notion that there are some things that we don't talk about with our family, because that's not healthy. And so I said, I really want to be able to talk about everything with my child, and there's nowhere, I can't go anywhere to find out what that is. Went to the university to see if I'm right. Is that right, or am I just missing something? She said it's bang on. And she also said that even social workers don't know how to do this. And I thought, well, I don't know, you know, that surely that can't be right. But as I've started writing this, we did original research with children, care leavers, social workers. They have not been taught how to do this, and they're going, oh my goodness, this is incredible. I'm so glad you're doing it. You know, we got half an hour and the teacher didn't know what to do. It's almost like you're left. As a social worker, you're taught the laws, what you must do. As an adoptive parent, I'm told I need to talk to my child about his difficult past, but there was no help. So what I did was create this thing, and we've come up with 4 key concepts. So it will be out 31st of March. Calm and composed. So this is what the parent needs to be, or the social worker, whoever it is that's having that conversation with that child. Calm and composed. People like different words on that one. Compassionate, curious. So really find out about that past. What made you do that? That's really interesting. Or what color hair do you think they had? Really? Wow. And then, you know, bringing that into the present. Courageous. This is what you have to be, courageous. It is hard. It is hard. So it really does take a step of courageousness in you to have a difficult conversation, and really having some kind of prize at the end, talking to other people. Really, you know, if you've done it, if you've slam dunked it, fantastic. Even having that first conversation, amazing. We are not brought up to do this in this country. In other countries, they're much better at it. You know, a tribe where I've been, you wouldn't get away with anything, not talking about something, because somebody would just, you know, it would be fireside chat. It would be hilarious, absolutely hilarious, whatever the thing was, this sort of shameful secret. They don't have shameful secrets. You know, we do in this world, we do. We cover up a lot with, you know, professionalism. So I think I haven't quite got the difficult conversations. I've just realized that the difficult conversations key concept, these are for you. The other ones are slightly different, but basically calm, courageous, and curious. These are really
There's
key.
one, I think, which would be a really nice ending one here. Nate from Naomi, could you give an example of a way you've helped resolve environmental, could you give an example of a way you've helped resolve environmental community trauma and conflict, and how the process has worked?
Oh, wow,
sorry if that's too big a one. I can...
No, it's okay, it's okay. So communities, this isn't exactly environmental conflict, but it's something that matters to people. And actually doing the bit that matters to people and demonstrating that you can come up with solutions then opens them up to trusting you. So in Peru, I had to always do stuff about football teams and t-shirts before we could get onto environmental stuff. Always, always. We had to go where they wanted to go, proof of concept. Okay, yeah, you can, we'll let you into our other stuff. So that's one thing. So this one is balls, the use of balls, playing outside. Oh, Naomi, you love this one. Playing outside. Balls are not allowed in this area. So it's an area of in London, sort of near Walthamstow a few years ago. And there were the people who said, you absolutely cannot do it. You know, anyway, it says on the wall, you can't. And then all of these kids and the parents saying, it's bonkers. Okay, so what happens is that we ask for, what do people think? Okay, you know, what is the law theoretically right now? And then what do people think? What suggestions have you got? And we had all of these people in the room at night, and there was a policeman came in fully dressed in police gear. I didn't know that was going to happen, but like I said, stuff happens that you don't know is going to happen, and it can kind of rock the room. But really, people kind of were supporting this to see what is going to happen. This is a huge issue for many people. And basically, they came up with what the issues were on like a flinger. And then we grouped those and we worked in little groups. And then we said, what do you think? If you were in charge, what do you think could be a really good solution? And then they all came up. I can't remember. I think we did different colour Post-its for kids and for parents. And in the end, they said, we need to know each other better. The answer was, we need to know each other better. And they arranged a trip to Alton Towers. That sounds very bizarre, but it really helped. So that the arranging of a trip for the children to get to know each other, and for some of those older people, and a sense that those older people could be involved in the community in a way that had nothing to do with balls. Just like another one, I had to solve a problem inside government between the HR team and IT team. And they came up with having a football team together, because they just didn't understand each other. They just, when they spoke, they were like this. And so it's really difficult to predict, but it will be to do with human connection. And it's not what we think it is often. Environmentalists, you'll think you need some data, you need this, you need the other. So if we can make that if we can get in that first place, then often people will allow you to work with them on other issues. I don't think many of us have got to that first base yet, but when we do, we will find it really opens and gets more easy.
Well, that's actually our time now, Alison. Yeah, thank you so much. And everyone who's watching, who wanted to see those slides, Alison, if you email them over to me, we'll get them on the website within the week. But
I will.
Thank you so much for this. It's been absolutely amazing and really fascinating. So many lovely comments in the side here as well, thanking you, which I'm assuming is the equivalent of a round of applause.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.